I will show you the future. Oh, hell.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full DC Creature Commandos Episode 1 and Episode 2 video, the official beginning of the DCU, as James Gunn explains it. There are some things that come from the DCEU, like the Zack Snyder version of the Justice League universe, that will still be canon, but a lot of stuff is being rebooted, so it is effectively a reboot. I'll explain what's canon and what's not, because there is some stuff that predates this that they reference during the episode, like the events of the Suicide Squad movie, Peacemaker Season 1, and there's some other stuff too. So if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. They even reference the David Corenswet Superman during these episodes, so I'll explain how he figures into this because he's already active in the universe when this begins. We might even be getting that live-action Superman movie trailer sometime soon, but the way that James Gunn talks about it, he keeps holding off on it, so it might be the Super Bowl before they actually do wind up dropping it. But the reason why you're seeing him in this series before you see him in live action is because James Gunn said they're doing a lot of universe table setting, explaining what the state of the DCU is in the series. There's a lot of that going on during the first episode. And if you thought the David Corenswet Superman cameo scene was a big deal, there's even a stealth Daniel Craig cameo scene from a future movie that he's doing inside the DCU that they're working on right now, so I'll point that out when we get to that part. A lot of references to the other really big Justice League level characters, but when this episode picks up, the Justice League has not been created yet inside the DCU, even though Superman has been active for a long time. But even though there's a lot of references to Wonder Woman characters and Wonder Woman things during the episode, she's actually not active in this universe yet. I am sure there's going to continue to be a bunch of questions about this until the new Superman movie comes out, like who is around, like which characters are active and who is not active yet. But the episode 1 title is The Collywobbles, which is a reference to stomach pain or queasiness that's associated with intense anxiety and nervousness. It's meant to be a reference to the actual team's first mission together, with some of them being nervous, some of them not so nervous. Essentially, this series is like the Suicide Squad, but with monsters and creatures. That's why they're called Task Force M instead of Task Force X. M is in monster, non-humans. They're based on the comic book version of the team, but in the episode, they explain that this is set after the events of Peacemaker Season 1. There's a couple specific references to things that happened during that season. For example, Rick Flag Sr. knows about the death of his son during the events of the Suicide Squad movie, and he's still pissed off at Peacemaker for that. And the whole reason why they use Task Force M, the Creature Commandos, is because Amanda Waller isn't allowed to use humans anymore because her daughter at the end of Peacemaker Season 1 outed what she was doing with the Suicide Squad to the rest of the world. So you can see that there is some stuff from the Zack Snyder DCEU that's still canon to the new James Gunn DCU. For example, he said that all of Peacemaker, except for that ending Justice League scene, is canon to the DCU, and most of the Suicide Squad movie is canon. But I think it's going to be one of those situations where James Gunn will wait till each movie and each TV show comes out to piecemeal explain what he's cherry-picking from the DCEU to carry forward. But for the most part, all the real big characters like Justice League level characters, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all those characters will be recast with new actors. The other big thing about this too, and they're kind of following Marvel's lead with the Disney Plus series and the MCU movies with this too, is that the actors that he cast to play these animated characters will play the live-action versions of the characters when they come back in future movies and TV shows. But I don't think that all the members of this Creature Commandos team are meant to survive this season. Some of them will come back in live action, but not all of them. Best examples of that so far are Viola Davis as Amanda Waller coming back to do the animated version of her character. John Economos from the Suicide Squad movie and Peacemaker is also back playing his character. And obviously Frank Grillo's Rick Flag Sr. He's meant to be Rick Flag Jr.'s father who's pissed off about the death of his son during the events of the Suicide Squad movie, still pissed off at Peacemaker, which they will address during Peacemaker Season 2. We actually just saw him in live action during the Peacemaker Season 2 trailer, and we saw him during the new Superman movie that we're going to see next year. So we've already seen him in live action. There'll just be future examples of that where there's continuity with the same actors playing people in animation and live action back and forth. But the whole idea here is the Creature Commandos TV series is meant to be the first TV show in the DCU that's 100% canon. So like everything that is referenced here, all the events, what's going on in the world, all the different characters, completely canon to the DCU. That is why you're seeing David Corenswet's Superman in his new Superman suit. Notice Peacemaker also sitting right next to him too. Now this is like an alternate flash forward future, like a darkest timeline situation, which they're trying to avoid during the series. So like, he doesn't wind up dying like this eventually during the Superman movie. This is a completely separate thing. But I do love the way they're sort of teasing you with this, like, oh wow, it's Superman, like we're going to be seeing him in live action in a trailer really soon. The way that Frank Grillo explained his Rick Flag Sr. character is that in the DCU in present day, he's essentially running Argus, even though technically Amanda Waller is in charge of Argus. So like during the Superman movie, he'll be running Argus. That's why you see him arresting Superman here. Also explains one of the reasons why he's interacting with Peacemaker during Peacemaker Season 2, because Peacemaker basically works for Amanda Waller, technically. That's where he gets all of his funding from. She's the one that puts Team Peacemaker together. They explain the whole lineup of the team here is the Bride of Frankenstein, whose backstory is similar to the original Bride of Frankenstein in literature, played by Indira Varma. You probably remember her from Game of Thrones or like 1,000 other things. She's been on a ton of other series. Frankenstein's monster also might sound familiar. He's played by David Harbour, who said that he might come back in the DCU as the live-action version of the character at some point. We also just saw him as Red Guardian in the Thunderbolts trailer, so like he's one of the rare actors that's bouncing back and forth at the same time with Marvel and DC. There's been a lot of that lately just because everybody's big comic book universe seems like it's slowly rebooting itself, both Marvel and DC. So like we just saw Henry Cavill as a version of Wolverine in Deadpool and Wolverine, the Cavalrine.
You
Ryan
say
doesn't give a shit.
when you say grounded.
One of the first people I talked to after I got the job was Ryan Reynolds. I'm like, you coming back? He's like, get the fuck out of here.
Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother, who you probably remember as Kraglin from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, is playing G.I. Robot, a sentient robot created by the U.S. military during World War II through a program called Project M, as in monster, with the sole purpose of helping them hunt down and kill Nazis, which is why, in present day, he just won't stop shutting up about killing Nazis. He also plays the Weasel character who we saw during the Suicide Squad movie. There are a couple of jokes about that too during the episode. There are a couple of scenes where G.I. Robot is making fun of Weasel, so it's like Sean Gunn making fun of himself in the scene. Alan Tudyk, who's voiced like 1,000 different characters in a bunch of different stuff already in DC stuff, is voicing both Clayface and Dr. Phosphorus. Mostly Dr. Phosphorus. He's the character that's on the actual Creature Commandos. He's meant to be a former scientist, also from the Batman lore, like Clayface is a Batman character, who was trying to create a nuclear power plant for Rupert Thorne, big villain from the Batman comics, until he betrayed him, locked him in his device, and turned him into this atomic mutant, or metahuman, because we're talking about DC, not Marvel. You see some of his abilities during the episode, like he has radiation-based powers, energy projection, superhuman endurance, but one of his main weaknesses is that if he uses powers for too much too long, like he expends too much energy, his body will die, and the process made him just a little bit crazy. Alan Tudyk is also in the new Superman movie in live action, but they didn't say who he's playing during that, because he's playing like a whole bunch of different characters. Zoe Chow is playing Nina Mazursky, who's a little bit like Abe Sapien from the Hellboy comics with a different origin story. In the DC universe, she was a former scientist who created the first generation of the Creature Commandos who went insane and died. She felt remorseful, created a second version of the team, and used the process on herself to become a monster. But the way they're explaining her origin on the series, it might be a little bit different because you actually see her as a little kid in this aquatic form. So in the DCU, I think they're trying to say that she was created by a scientist as part of another project. The actual opening scene starts at Belle Reve, where Amanda Waller's home base is, with her and Rick Flag Sr. watching the news during an attack by a terrorist group calling themselves the Sons of Themyscira. In the comics, they're the male sons born to the Amazons on Paradise Island that are abandoned at birth because they only care about having daughters on Themyscira. Pokolistan is from the DC Comics. It's part of the former Czech Republic in Eastern Europe. They're working for Cersei from the Wonder Woman comics, who is the main villain of the series, as you see, but they kind of make it seem like there's some sus stuff going on with the princess, and the princess might wind up being the secret villain of the series. But at least for now, they want you to think that Cersei is the main villain, but I think there'll be a big twist with that. She's voiced by Anya Chalotra, who most of you will recognize as Yennefer from the Netflix Witcher, which, fun coincidence here, just as Henry Cavill is fired as Superman in the DC universe and quits The Witcher, she joins the DC universe, so it's like they're all switching places. She's also supposed to return as the live-action version of Cersei in future movies and TV shows, like they're developing the Paradise Lost Wonder Woman prequel series that's like Game of Thrones inside the DCU, but they didn't say when that's going to air or what's going on with it. Cersei isn't meant to be a goddess or a demigod like Wonder Woman, for example. She's an immortal sorceress who just has god-level power. And speaking of Superman references, she has fought Superman many times in the comics. They make the joke here that she has the mugshot with the Metropolis PD here, meaning that at some point in the DCU, Superman in his early days as Superman, the David Cornswet version of Superman, took her down and the police arrested her in Metropolis. Keep in mind, too, this would have been without the help of DCU Wonder Woman because she's not active at this point yet. Like, there is no DCU Wonder Woman that exists yet. One of Superman's big weaknesses is magic. Her mugshot number here, I think, is also meant to be a reference to Wonder Woman issue number 1 in 1942. We actually see Themyscira in the DCU present day on screen, meaning that news cameras were able to film it. I think the general idea is that Wonder Woman was born a long time ago and exists, but hasn't become active in the world yet, so like the world doesn't know that Wonder Woman actually exists. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't happened yet, like active superheroes. Superman has been active for just a little while, but there is no Justice League yet. So like there is a Batman running around, but we don't know who it is yet. James Gunn probably won't reveal that for a couple more years. We find out that Cersei is just gaslighting the sons into working for her so that she can take down the princess for some reason, but they haven't completely explained why. The way they played in the trailers, though, make it seem like Cersei isn't the actual villain and the princess is doing something super shady that Cersei is actually trying to stop, technically. Doesn't that remind you of the big twist with the Suicide Squad movie and what was happening with Starro? Like Amanda Waller kind of lied to them about the idea that Starro was the villain that they needed to take down, when really Starro wasn't the actual villain. He just wanted to go back to outer space because he was being held captive his whole life. The real villain of that movie were Amanda Waller and the US government. The way that Amanda Waller explains it, too, is the reason why she needs Rick Flag to assemble the Creature Commandos to go save Pekolistan is because the US needs their oil. There's a lot of parallels that you could also draw to real-world conflicts in the past where, like, the US will help people internationally just because they need their oil. They explain the princess of their country, who's about to become the queen, is Alana Rostovic from the comics, played by Maria Bakalova, who most of you probably remember as Cosmo from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Like I said, she might wind up being the actual secret villain of the series. They do the intro scene where Amanda Waller basically explains what the Creature Commandos Task Force M is, why she's keeping non-humans. They explain what happened during Peacemaker Season 1 and why she has to use them instead of using the regular Suicide Squad. They make the joke about Weasel, meaning that at some point after the Suicide Squad post-credit scene, Amanda Waller sent people to pick him up on Corto Maltese and throw him back in prison. That was what she means when she says Project Starfish, because Starro was the starfish in that equation. One of the other key details here too, when they reference the death of his son, Rick Flag Jr., is that he doesn't know that Peacemaker only killed him on Amanda Waller's orders, so that's probably going to create some tension between them in the future once he figures that out. But I don't think they're actually going to address that until Peacemaker Season 2, when he starts confronting Peacemaker. They show how Amanda Waller keeps them in line using a more aggressive version of the chips that she put in all the Suicide Squad members' brains. These just shock the hell out of them and can blow them to bits if they want. But because they're monsters, the way she treats them is even more inhumane than humans because they don't have the same rights as normal humans have. Congress doesn't care about non-humans. They play the regular intro that you see in front of all the episodes with the different characters. They even animated James Gunn into the credits, typing up a script on his MacBook. The script that he's actually typing, like if you zoom in and enhance, is a Creature Commandos episode script because he basically created the series and did most of the work on it, but he didn't direct every single episode because he was also working on the new Superman movie and Peacemaker Season 2 all at the same time. So like a bunch of other people helped him make these TV series. They also recently animated James Gunn into the Harley Quinn Season 3. Alan Tudyk, who also voices Clayface during that series too, had a big joke with him too.
James Gunn, sit on me.
Well, Mr. Face, what would you say to a job on set as the director's chair?
Then they have their version of the same Suicide Squad intro scene of them all on the plane heading to the mission together, kind of joking back and forth, getting to know each other. The reason why G.I. Robot has a number 2 on his helmet is because he's the second version of a robot that the military created. When Dr. Phosphorus calls Weasel a child killer, that's the event that initially got him locked up and sent to Belle Reve, but I think we'll find on the series that Weasel was actually framed for killing those kids. There are a couple more references to this later in the episode that I'll point out when we get to that part. When the bride reveals she's been to Pekolistan before, this is because she was created by Dr. Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein, in that same country. That's where she's from. But they don't ever reveal who she was before she died and was brought back to life by Dr. Frankenstein. There might be some other twists with that eventually, but like in the comics, they never reveal who she originally was before she died. They introduced their country's Royal Military Force, who wear modern-looking suits of power armor designed to look kind of like retro classical knights. Love some of the jokes in the comedy of the series, like you see Weasel pissing himself in the middle of the convoy. It is kind of weird that Dr. Phosphorus can sense that happening even though his entire body exists in this fiery phosphoric state. There are a bunch of jokes here with the royal family slowly getting more and more inbred and deformed until you see the princess, which might be a twist too. The reason why she's super beautiful might be some huge twist. The whole joke with their references being super outdated, like the Jamie Kennedy Experience, all the early 2000s references to pop culture, is similar to the Scarlet Witch backstory in the MCU with Elizabeth Olsen's character. They explain because their country, like Sokovia in the MCU for example, is so cut off and remote, like so war-torn, it's so bad, they don't get things till like 20, 30 years later, so all their references are super outdated. That's the reason in the MCU why Scarlet Witch loved all the VCR tapes of the sitcoms from like the 50s and the 60s, for example, because it took that long for that stuff to actually get to her as a child, even though Scarlet Witch was actually born in the 90s. When they have dinner, there's a couple funny details here too, you notice. The bride has a working intestinal tract, like she can drink and eat things. G.I. Robot really only needs diesel, that's why he's just sitting here waiting for more diesel. When they reveal that the queen is also barely still alive, this also might be part of the huge twist, with the princess actually trying to take over the country and being the secret villain. Like the princess might secretly be keeping the queen in this infirm state. I think this is also why she seems like she's trying to honeypot Rick Flag Sr. so much, trying to get on with him from the very start, being so sexually aggressive with him. Just because she's trying to twist him around her finger and get a hold of that shocker device so that she can control his team when she tries to turn on them. When he starts talking about Weasel, I think the reason why he hasn't shown any violent tendencies since he was supposed to have killed those children is probably because Weasel never actually killed the kids and was never actually violent. All these continued references to his son Rick Flag Jr. they'll probably continue to pay off through the rest of the series and during Peacemaker Season 2. Because G.I. Robot doesn't need to sleep, they make him stand guard outside in the hallway, and I love the joke that they make Weasel sleep outside too because nobody else wants Weasel in their rooms with him. Then the bride and Nina go to Castle Frankenstein looking for the tourmaline necklace that Victor von Frankenstein gave to the bride as a gift when she was created. That's the only reason why she goes back to Victor von Frankenstein's laboratory. And I think the necklace itself has some magical connection to the central mystery of the series, because I think that's why Cersei shows up trying to kill the bride. She doesn't actually want to kill the bride, she just wants the necklace from her. Whatever's going on with that special necklace, Victor von Frankenstein says that he found it on a quote-unquote mysterious cadaver, meaning that like he has no idea where the necklace came from, but it probably has some special magical properties. There are a couple different fight scenes during the episode just to show you some of the different team members' abilities, like Rick Flag versus Dr. Phosphorus. He probably lost a couple years on his life too, fighting with Dr. Phosphorus like this. Working for Argus, I'm sure Rick Flag did not expect to live a full, long life anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. Part of the idea, too, is they want to show you the team starting to bond with each other a little bit. Like, by the end of the series, they will all respect each other and sacrifice their lives to save each other. We started to get more flashbacks to show the bride's origin, which continued during episode 2. The person in the shack with the Zac Efron wallpaper, which is kind of a funny twist on the phone, is calling Frankenstein's monster. Technically, he's just called the monster in the original Frankenstein books. And it seems like they're changing some of their origin from the comic book versions of the characters. So in the comics, they were married and they did try to create a son together for a little while. But on the series, they're just making it seem like he was this crazy guy who wanted her to be created so that he could have a bride like he did in the original books. But after that, just continued to chase her down across the world and she wanted nothing to do with him. So I don't think that at any point the two of them ever actually tried to create a son like they did in the comics. And for the most part, they're portraying him as an antagonist to her, but not so bad that she wants to perma-kill him, like she just tries to keep running away from him. They end the episode paying off the Frankenstein David Harbour reveal, who's currently been living in luxury apparently in the tropics somewhere, searching for the bride, again, over time. We get the montage during episode 2, where like continually over the years, he keeps finding and chasing her down. The reason why he lost track of her more recently is because she's been locked up inside Argus. Episode 2's title was The Tourmaline Necklace, which is a reference to the bride's necklace Dr. Frankenstein gave her, which they reveal, like I said, has a connection to whatever the central mystery of the series is, something that Circe and the princess are doing, and it seems like the necklace has some magical properties. But the episode starts with a flashback to 1831 to show Dr. Frankenstein creating the bride. It's mostly like the classical version of the story, with Frankenstein's monster forcing Dr. Frankenstein to create her because he wanted a companion. Dr. Frankenstein didn't actually want to create her in the first place. The princess cleans Rick Flag up, they totally get it on. Notice she keeps asking him about the remote, probably because she wants to try and steal it and use it to control the team when she eventually maybe turns on them all. We learn more about the bride's backstory and see Frankenstein's wife and children, and the whole idea they want to get across here is the bride herself didn't actually want to be created. It was a very horrific event, like how dare you do this to me. They set up the whole idea that she's horrified by Frankenstein's monster, but grows to eventually love Frankenstein himself. A lot of people also get confused by this too. So Frankenstein, when you talk about him, is actually the doctor himself. When you're talking about Frankenstein's monster, typically he's just referred to as the monster. So the bride is horrified by the monster, but she grows to love Frankenstein, which of course the monster hates. They set up the idea why the bride loves the necklace so much because it was the last gift that Frankenstein gave to her. Circe attacks. Like I said, this is probably so she can steal the necklace because it has some magical properties that Circe needs. They use their fight to show off some of their abilities too, like how Circe's magic works and some of the bride's abilities like super strength. I love some of their fight scenes too, a couple funny moments, like the bride cracks one of Circe's magical gemstones when she punts her right in the baby maker. Even though it hurts dudes way more, kicking him in the nuts like that, it still hurts women a lot. You just don't see them using that trick in a lot of movie or TV fight scenes that often because most people think of it as being a comedic kind of thing. Then they show Frankenstein's monster actually killing the doctor when he caught him getting it on with the bride, with the rest of the context for the relationship. Like, they really want you to feel like he is a villain to the bride that she wants nothing to do with a montage of him chasing her down across the world over the rest of the years. They start in 1852 in Paris, you can see the Eiffel Tower behind them, then 1880 in the American West in a saloon, 1895 in the Sahara Desert, 1912 in what looks like Antarctica underneath the ice caps, 1923 in New York City at a show while she's about to perform on stage, then 1941 during World War II. Notice he's also wearing a Nazi uniform, like that seems kind of weird. Definitely trying to make him seem like a villain here. 1964, maybe this is in London. 1991 is in Los Angeles because the Reptile Room here is meant to be a parody of the Viper Room, which very famous Los Angeles club in the 90s that River Phoenix died at when he was about to perform in a band with Johnny Depp. Like it was this legendary thing that happened in the 90s. That is why they had the scene of them fighting on stage with the band to reference River Phoenix dying when he was about to perform with the band. Notice Frankenstein's monster is also wearing the bunny on his shirt. It's meant to be a reference to James Gunn's Ultra Bunny, which shows up in a lot of his productions. There's a much quicker montage of a bunch more scenes over the years. On Wall Street, for some reason, maybe she became a stock trader for a little while, a Victorian-looking mansion. This is Woodstock, and it seems like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo is in the background. So does that mean that Scooby-Doo is now canon to the DCU? Maybe. She became a samurai at some point in ancient Japan. This seems like an early 2000s reference, and the Mighty Crab Joys might be a Mighty Mighty Boss Tones joke. Then I love the way they end the episode with Nina dropping the F-bomb to her and the bride smiling like they're beginning to slowly bond. There's a bunch of trailer footage for episode 3 and beyond, like David Cornswith's Superman, Peacemaker, Mr. Terrific, a whole bunch of stuff going on here, so I'll try to do a video for that stuff too in the next couple days, but my full episode 3 video will post next week after they release it. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. If there's any Easter eggs or references that you spotted during this episode that I didn't talk about in the video too, write them below in the comments, or if you have any questions about the canon or what's going on with the characters, or like the other real big characters like Superman, for instance, just write those in the comments below too. Overall, the series seems like it's going to be pretty solid. It got pretty banger reviews of people that have seen the entire season. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, so we will see how it goes episode to episode. There's a bunch of other big stuff happening this month too. We have Dune Prophecy episodes, Star Wars Skeleton Crew episodes, and What If Season 3 episodes later this month. I'll be doing videos for everything. And speaking of the birth of James Gunn's DCU, they literally just killed the Arrowverse. Like, it literally just ended with the Superman and Lois TV series. I just did a big video for that. RIP to the Arrowverse. Click here for that. And click here for my brand new Kraven video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.